As a trans woman, seeing discourse about Yamato's gender is like watching people discuss whether or not pineapple belongs on pizza. I personally don't think so, but I won't be upset if you put it on there. My name is Cryptic D Athena, and this is my Yamato's Gender Identity Retrospective. In my last video about the subject, Yamato, a Trans Perspective, I came to the conclusion that I don't think she is trans. And while I think that video is fine, I think I can do better, especially with the most recent chapters solidifying my decision. In my opinion, Yamato isn't trans, and here are my reasons why. Starting from the very beginning, Yamato was introduced in chapter 983, where she introduces herself as Kaido's son. In the very next chapter, 984, Yamato talks about Odin and how she was inspired to be like him. Kazuki Odin was a man, right? So I became a man too. In this same panel, Yamato's title box, or Oda box if you will, it says that she's the daughter of Kaido and self-proclaimed Kazuki Odin. Skipping ahead a little bit, in chapter 988, Luffy tells Yamato to go protect Momonosuke, and she responds by saying, "It's only natural I protect him, he's my son after all." In the next chapter, chapter 989, Yamato introduces herself to Momonosuke and Shinobu as Odin, and not as her actual name. Jumping a little bit further, in chapter 994, Yamato gains the trust of Momonosuke and Shinobu, revealing her true name to them. In chapter 996, Yamato is protecting Momonosuke and Shinobu, with Shinobu saying, "Abandon me and save Momonosuke." Yamato responds with, "Odin would never do that." She continues to further push the idea that she herself is Odin from here on, and up to the current chapters. In 1051, she introduces herself to the Straw Hat crew as both Odin and Yamato. An interesting thing to note is that Kaido refers to Yamato as his son frequently in the story. We actually get a tease of this in chapter 977, with Kaido asking where his son is as he makes preparations to meet up with Big Mom. But the thing about this is, Kaido started to beat Yamato for proclaiming that she was Odin, and not because she claimed to be a man. Now it's obvious why Kaido beats Yamato, and it's because he hates Odin, and he doesn't want his child to think of themselves as Odin. But he doesn't hate that his kid calls herself a man. There's definitely some speculation here, but to get this more in line with the video, it's pretty clear to me that Yamato's statement of being a man is only due to her wanting to be like Odin. Let's compare Yamato's identity to that of Kiku's, who is actually a trans character, starting with her introduction in chapter 913. From that chapter and up to 948, everyone in the story calls Kiku by her proper pronouns, those of course being she, her. And it's quite obvious because she looks like any normal One Piece woman, except minus the obvious features. And the only character that thinks she's hiding something is Zoro, and that may not even necessarily be about her gender. Throughout these 35 chapters, Kiku has been speaking in a very strange way. She often will talk about herself in an almost third-person viewpoint, saying things like, "This one is a samurai," in reference to herself. And when she properly introduces herself to Zoro and Luffy by saying, "I am Okiku," "I am" translates from a Japanese term called sesha. This is a word used for male samurai that denotes them as a male samurai. Zoro reacts to this by being a little bit surprised because he knows the most about samurai culture, and would assume that only male samurai would use the term sesha. But nonetheless, he never stops referring to Kiku as she, her from this point. Sure, he and some other characters point out that she is a bit taller than a normal One Piece woman, but they never once question her identity until chapter 948, a chapter where Kiku is outed by a beast pirate, and Chopper reacts by saying, "You're a man?" with Kiku responding with, "I am a woman at heart." And from this chapter onwards, her identity is never once brought up ever again. Everyone assumes her to be a woman, and rightfully so, as everyone in the story saw her as such. I suspect that a lot of the One Piece fandom didn't even flinch at her being a woman either, right up until this very chapter. Furthermore, according to the One Piece wiki, woman at heart is a term commonly used in Japan to designate whether or not someone is a trans woman. Additionally, Kiku's Vivre card uses Japanese terms to denote male sex, but again uses another Japanese term similar to the previous that means heart or mind of a woman. Once again, solidifying the idea that Kiku is actually a trans person, a trans woman. Compare this Vivre card information with Yamato, which her sex and gender very clearly state that she is a woman. There's really no denying it at all. However, the validity of Vivre cards being canon is often debated, and I personally have no idea if they are or not. I've always thought that they were, especially with Oda being heavily involved with them. So maybe, comparing Vivre card information between Kiku and Yamato isn't fair. Instead, I will bring up a personal issue I have with Yamato's characterization, if she is indeed trans, and that's the amount of emphasis on her body, compared to Kiku. The first example of this that I could find is in chapters 1005 and 1006, when Yamato has Momonosuke jump into her shirt so that he can stay hidden. And since Momonosuke is a notorious pervert, we do get a small panel of him going over the moon at him being so close to a woman's body. The second example is Oda's drawing of Yamato's side boob as a personified being in her Vivre card. I actually found this funny, but I'm getting to a point here. And finally, the most recent chapters, 1051 to 1052, Sanji and Brook's reactions to Yamato. Brook, while he is excited that Yamato wants to join the crew, it's namely Sanji who is the most excited. In the famous male bathhouse scene of 1052, we even see Sanji in the background rocketing out of the picture from a stream of blood. Now, this is of course due to Sanji's characterization, but this scene, on top of Momo hiding in Yamato's clothes, really rubs me the wrong way. I scoured through as many chapters as I could, and not one time has Kiku's body ever been accentuated to the same extent as Yamato's. At the very least, it's not sexualized. Well, Kiku doesn't have boobs, so of course not, you might say. And I would say that she has legs in response. Heck, with the way that women are portrayed in One Piece, I am partially surprised that Oda didn't try to pull some sort of fake breast situation with Kiku. But my overall point is, I think Oda has handled Kiku and her transness very well, and if Yamato is indeed supposed to be trans, I would have hoped he would do the same. These scenes, paired with her proclamations of being Odin and her Vivre card, paint a very clear picture to me. As much as I and many others would love to have Yamato be another source of trans representation, I personally believe that she is not. And she will also at some point drop the Odin title and male gender identity entirely by the end of the series. I want to end the video off by saying that if you believe Yamato is trans, you have every right to do so. And if you believe she isn't, you also have every right to do so. Neither side of the conversation is wrong, as I still find it very confusing. Mostly because, as a trans woman, I struggle with my identity nearly every day, so seeing Yamato's fluctuating identity is something that I'm kind of happy to see in my favorite manga of all time. To see a mainstream character go through sort of an identity crisis is cathartic for me in a way. With all that said, I want to thank you all for watching. Please comment your thoughts about Yamato, especially any other trans people who watch this. Also, like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want. I have no idea what my next video on One Piece will be, so in the meantime, I actually want to do a small video series on a game that I enjoy, Monster Hunter Rise. I pre-ordered the Sunbreak expansion a week ago, which comes out very soon, and I want to play through the game again. So it's a perfect excuse for a video series. But if you have any One Piece video suggestions, please leave those in the comments as well. I have some ideas, but I want to get started on the Monster Hunter series as soon as possible. And with that, here's to a happy Pride Month, and thank you all for watching. Have a good day, everyone.